Thank you, Mr President. I also rise to speak on this matter of public importance and will fully defend the professionalism and the impartiality of Dyson Hayden ACQC. The senator opposite, through you, Mr President, said that the Royal Commission had significant problems. And I think the significant problems that have been identified are those in terms of affecting the union movement and corrupt union bosses across Australia. And the issue that the Labor Party have with Justice Hayden is not any allegations about impartiality. It's that the corruption and the badness that has been taking place in the union movement over a number of years. And the Royal Commission has done vital work to uncover questionable dealings by union bosses. Criminal charges have been recommended against at least 3 of the most senior officials of the Militant Construction Union, the CFMEU. No less than 4 people have been arrested in association with the dealings of the CFMEU, thanks to the work of the Royal Commission. And a series of unions have been implicated in secret slush fund scandals that have finally come to light. And of course, we should not forget that the Leader of the Opposition, as Secretary of the Australian Workers' Union, traded away the penalty rates of low-paid workers, had his union received hundreds of thousands of dollars in unexplained payments, and failed to disclose over $40,000 donated to his political campaign by a company with which his union was dealing. Of course, he remembered this hours, days before his own appearance before the Royal Commission. The Labor Party and their paymasters in the union movement have been engaged in a desperate attack on the Royal Commissioner, because Labor and the unions are desperate to bring down Justice Hayden because of the work that he is bringing to light, because he is shining sunlight into the nefarious activities of various elements of the trade union movement. The ACTU has claimed by media release that the Commissioner is as untenable and that the Commissioner's actions are an example of bias. Yet, when given the opportunity to bring a claim of bias to the Royal Commission, they prevaricated. They clearly don't know whether they have enough evidence to even argue a bias case, let alone win a case. And what is interesting is the Law Council of Australia, Mr President, came out today. And I'd like to read from the media statement of the President of the Law Council of Australia. And Duncan McConnell said today, "The public attacks on the Commissioner being played out through the media are unacceptable and damage the basis on which tribunals and courts operate." He went on to say, "The person who sits as a Royal Commissioner is entitled to the same respect inside and outside of the inquiry as a judge in court. In this case, Mr John Dyson Hayden ACQC is a highly regarded former judicial officer. They concurred, this is the Law Council of Australia, that the proper place for an application is to the Commissioner itself. Yet the ACTU, the Australian Council of Trade Unions, cannot decide whether it has grounds to make one." But what I think we should do is actually let's have a look at the career of Justice Hayden in terms of what a brilliant legal mind we have here. He graduated with a Bachelor of Arts from the University of Sydney. He was a Rhodes Scholar for New South Wales in 1964. He graduated with a Master of Arts and a Bachelor of Civil Law from Oxford University. He was admitted to the New South Wales Bar in 1973. He was a Professor of Law at age 30, a QC in 1987. He was Dean of the University of the Law School. He was appointed by a Labor Premier, Mr Bob Carr, to the New South Wales Court of Appeal. He was a former judge of the High Court of Australia, and he was appointed a Companion of the Order of Australia. Justice Hayden is one of the most respected jurists in Australia, and the unfortunate and unacceptable attacks that the Labor Party and their allies are throwing in terms of this mudfest that they're throwing at Justice Hayden is a sad indication of their own lack of belief and their own lack of uncertainty about the allegations that are coming out of the Royal Commission. Now, what is also interesting is that sometimes the word hypocrisy is thrown about this chamber, and I'm unsure about the correct term and whether it is unparliamentary, but in terms of Labor Party members have been involved in organising their own legal lectures at which serving judges have spoken. And now that they are claiming, hypocritically claiming, Mr Acting Deputy President, that Commissioner Hayden's decision not to attend a similar function organised by the Liberal Party proves bias. Now, their events include Justice Kirby delivered the Neville Wran lecture, established by the Labor Party while a serving High Court judge. In that speech, he noted that he has delivered lectures associated with the Liberal Party as well. And Luke Foley, the leader of Luke Foley, the New South Wales Labor politician, delivered the lecture this year. Now, Justices Kirby and Gaudron delivered the Lionel Murphy Memorial Lecture on separate occasions, which was initially funded by financial grants from Labor governments. Now, this is very similar to the Garfield Barwick Lecture, which Commissioner Hayden was asked to deliver, and it commemorates the contribution of a former Attorney-General who became a High Court judge. Now, the Australian Society for Labor Lawyers, and that sounds like a fun bunch of people, doesn't it, Mr Acting Deputy President, organised, and that's by lawyers who are sympathetic to the Labor Party or members of the Labor Party, has had papers presented to it by Justice Michael Kirby, while on the New South Wales Court of Appeal in 1985, Mary Gaudron, while as a High Court Justice in 1987, Michael McHugh, while on the New South Wales Court of Appeal in 1987, the ACT Chief Justice and Chief Magistrate in 1988, and Justice Spender of the Federal Court in 1985. So when Labor get up here, and Mr Acting Deputy President, and attack Justice Hayden, it is clear that they have failed to look in their own closet in terms of their own corporate and political and legal history before they've made the attacks on Justice Hayden. But the real reason that Labor are attacking Justice Hayden is because the work being undertaken by the Royal Commission. And I have a top 10. For those who are listening at home, of interesting developments that have come out of the Royal Commission. And in the remaining 2 minutes and 40 seconds that I have, I hope I get to go through the top 10 concerning developments that have come out of the Royal Commission, which will give an indication of why Labor and their paymasters in the union movement are concerned about the good work, the impartial work that has been undertaken by Justice Hayden. Now, that we found out that in Victoria, Comerencho bikies were employed as debt collectors in the building industry, that CFMEU's officials Brian Parker and Darren Greenfield consorted with underworld crime figure George Alex, whose friends and colleagues included the leader of the Rebels bikie gang, a former Comerencho, and ISIS recruits Khaled Shafour and Mohammed Amor. Number 3, construction company Boral suffered a 75% reduction in its market share after refusing to comply with the CFMEU's unlawful demands. Number 4, the private details of over 300 construction workers were leaked by the Construction Industry Super Fund, CBUS, to the CFMEU. We've got number 5, John Setka's abusive threats to workers. We've got number 6, the ACT police arrest a former construction union organiser and previous Labor Party sub-branch president, Fihi Kevalu, after evidence to the Commission that he had demanded tens of thousands of dollars in payments from tradesmen in return for getting work. We've got officials of the HSSU pressuring their staff to cheat online right of entry tests in the names of their organisers. Number 8, the Australian Workers' Union adding workers to the membership roll without the knowledge or consent of those workers. Number 9, the Australian Workers' Union arranging to have a super fund pay its own Assistant Secretary $93,000 for 2.5 days' work. And number 10, we've got the Australian Workers' Union receiving hundreds of thousands of dollars in unexplained payments from a series of companies. But it's actually the top 11. And I did miss out Bill Shorten. Bill Shorten, the leader of the Labor Party, who forgot forgot that when he was running for election that $40,000 was expended on his behalf in terms of payments to his campaign manager. And that, Mr Acting Deputy President, is the real reason why Labor are going after Justice Hayden. It is revenge, because Labor know they've been caught out and they want to have revenge on the Commissioner who caught them out in terms of the skullduggery and the dirty deals that have been done for years by the Labor Party and the union.